Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. And how do you do? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. And God loves you. Woo, woo. Good morning, y'all. That's right. This is Weena B. Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. But guess what? My God, your God woke us up this morning to be sitting in front of each other. And for that, we should give him honor, praise, and glory. And guess what? He accepts us just the way we are. I am in the process of getting my teeth fixed. And he told me I can keep the top ones. I said, you know what? No, I don't need no teeth to share what God has done for me. And so for that, I am truly, truly grateful. You know, this is March the 1st. And for the month of February, in the last week of February, I celebrated my 32-year anniversary from alcohol, drugs, and the lifestyle, one day at a time. And so, as a result of being obedient and sacrificing all on a daily basis to the God who delivered me from underneath that parked car 32 years ago, listen. Cocaine, alcohol took my teeth, but recovery gave me a few sets of dentures, and I just can't seem to keep them in my mouth. But guess what? I'm so glad I love me just the way I am because he loves me just the way I am. And guess what? I love you just the way you are. All right. And so I'm going to play my testimonial song. This is the month my mother celebrated her monthly birthday in the month of March. So I'm definitely going to dedicate a little bit about my mom through the month of March. Yes, there go my mama up there. There they go. Right. And so I had a praying mother. My mother prayed for me. She had me on her mind. I'm so glad my mama prayed for me. So let's play my testimonial song that in essence really speaks to how I'm feeling right now because of that song. I do my morning meditation. When I wake up in the morning, I don't cut the TV on. I don't check my Facebook most of the time. I don't check my messages most of the time. But mainly, I just lay there and I just be at all for being able to have another day. And then when I am obedient and I yield, I turn on my ambassador, Tamika Strickland, to hear a word from the word, who she is in recovery as well. And the way she's able to match that together is awesome. And then, depending upon how much time I got, I will tune into AJ Harding and my friend Hope Winchester. Please, please pray for my girl. She is such an obedient servant of God. And she definitely sacrifices a lot in order to help save one more child. So I love you, Hope Winchester, Tamika Strickland, AJ Harding, and all you other people, right? And I hope you love me, and I know you do. Okay, so my testimonial song is We Got the Victory. Then I'm going to come back and decide what we want to do. But we definitely going to focus on the March 1st Alcoholics Anonymous Daily Reflections, right? It works. It works, right? All right, so let's go with the song. And I definitely want to share some other information with you in the event you want to contact me, to do some work or something. All right. So here is my song for today. Victory. Where are you? All right. Wait a minute. I tell you, boy, this is like I love the Lord because I've learned to be obedient and I've learned to um, yield to the Spirit. And guess what? I ain't in no rush. I am not in a rush. So let's hear the song. Okay. Don't All right, let's do these skips. You got to get the vacation. So here you go. have mercy. Yes, Lord. Victory is mine. I tell y'all, listen, if y'all ever come visit Canaan Baptist Church, where my pastor, Reverend Christopher Allen Bullock, right, resides, and my first lady, Debbie Bullock, Dr. Debbie Bullock, she called me Weena, right? And she don't know every time she called me Weena, and it reminds me of my mother's calling me, right? And so, but if y'all ever come to my church, listen, get there early because listen, I am praising and worshiping my God because in my opinion, it's just me and the Lord there. I don't see nobody else, don't want to see nobody else, can't see nobody else because I am grateful, humble, happy for where he delivered me 32 years ago from underneath a park car. So yes, victory is mine. Victory is mine. Victory is mine. Oh, my mother told Satan, get behind. I told Satan, get behind. Christ said, get behind. Oh, my God. We got the victory. All right. So that was my morning dedication, testimonial song, Victory is Mine. And I need a drink, a coffee, okay? Listen, hold on one second. Ooh, Lord, I love you. Okay, so because this is the month of March, I wanted to first start off by sharing a little bit about my mother. She always celebrates her birthday from March 1st to March 31st, right? And so I just want to dedicate just a little bit my mother's story before I go into the reading for today. All right. My mother, Helen Lamar Jones Hall Taylor, born in Augusta, Georgia, March the 23rd, 1935. Yes. To, I believe, her mother's name was Beatrice. And her dad's name was, they call him Bojingo, all right? And I can't think of his real name, but anyway. And so back in the 30s in Augusta, Georgia, down south and really all over, a lot of things happened, a lot of secrets, a lot of, yeah, you know what I mean, right? And so that's where my mother was born. And she was able to live there in her early life. She was also, I'm not going to say adopted legally, but my biological grandmother, who I didn't know until years later, that's why secrets are not too good. No, secrets are not good. How about that? And so come to find out, I believe her name was Madeline, right? My mother's grandmother. And my mother's mother, Beatrice, was unable to care for her children. And I think she kept one, which was my mother's sister, but she also gave to her mother, Madeline, I think, my mother and my mother's brother, Robert. Okay. And so next door to Grandma Madeline was Ruby Lamar and Thomas Lamar, who were childless. And so as a result of them being childless, my grandmother, my granny, I call her Granny, Ruby Lamar, talked with her next door neighbor, Madeline, and wanted Helen, my mother. And so whatever arrangements they made, Ruby Lamar became the mother, my grandmother, to my mother, Helen. Okay. And so she was raised by Ruby Jones Lamar. Now, I can't tell you when she found out that she was given to the Lamars, but that's the beginning of my mother's story, right? And so I will share a little bit each day about the life of my mother, Helen Jones Lamar Hall Taylor. Born in Augusta, Georgia, March the 23rd, 1935, raised in Georgia until she was 14 years old. I'll stop there, all right? All right, so join me tomorrow for the continuation. Now, what I want to do is to go to the reading for today because this is AA daily reflection reading for today, March the 1st. And so I definitely need to be obedient and focus on the Alcoholics Anonymous daily reflections entitled It Works. It works. It works. I give you information from a quote from the AA literature. Then I give you the perspective of one alcoholic in the daily reflection. Then I give you my perspective on what it meant or means to me. Then I hope that you provide your perspective as well. All right. And so I want you this time. No, don't close your eyes, okay? Because we got too much to do. All right. So I want you to read it with me, okay? So here we go. All right, the AA Daily Reflection. I do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous, which has been in existence for nearly 90 years, but I've been a proud, grateful member for 32 years, one day at a time, okay? And so here goes the reading for today. Let's read it together, y'all, okay? So let's move this out the way. Okay, all right, you ready? It says, it works. It works. It really does. Alcoholics Anonymous, Big Book, page 88. When I got sober, I initially had faith only in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Desperation and fear kept me sober, and maybe a caring and or tough sponsor helped. Faith in a higher power came much later. This faith came slowly at first, after I began listening to others share at meetings about their experiences that I had never faced sober, but that they were facing with strength from a higher power. Out of their sharing came hope that I too would and could get a higher power. In time, I learned that a higher power, a faith that works under all conditions, is possible. Today, this faith, plus the honesty, open mindedness, and willingness to work the steps of the program, gives me the serenity that I seek. It works. It really does. Okay, so we're going to come back to that, but I wanted to plant the seed of the message that it works. All right. And so, what I want to also do is share with you a little bit of my journal that I started yesterday, right? And it talked in the reading with the help of his or her sponsor, whoever wrote it, right? So let's take a drink of coffee. I don't know what you drink, but I'm drinking coffee. Okay. All right. So yesterday, I read the foreword that was written by my children. I emphasized the importance of journaling, right? And as you saw, that the word written is spelled wrong because we want to get what's inside, outside, and on paper, all right? And I shared with you the acknowledgement, and I also shared with you the dedication, and I even read the introduction. But most importantly, I started my journal on May the 7th of 1990, and I shared that with you. So my first journal entry was incomplete, but let me share with you what I shared the following day on May the 8th of 1990. And guess what? It is the truth, because in my book, I have the actual journal entries that were typed, but I wanted to show authenticity, all right? And so journaling is so important when we transition from anything, to keep a journal of what you're going through, how you're feeling, what's going on, what you're dealing with, how you got through it, all right? Because later on, it will become your reference book. Not your autobiography, but your reference book. So you can reflect back to where you was and what you were doing, right? So I want to see where my mindset was on May the 8th of 1990. So here's my journal entry for that day. My day started out with my usual meditation, time, and prayer. I've been feeling rather undecided about the move I'm about to take. And after gathering feedback and opinions and really soul searching, I decided the best move at this time was to go to the why. Going to meetings after following directions enables me to attempt to find the validity in them. I don't know what's best for me at all, especially in recovery. And relying on outside constructive opinions, I feel more comfortable taking them. I was able to learn about my house manager, a little of the human side. We had a white book meeting, and I was able to direct certain feelings and observations about her. At just by having that meeting, I learned a lot about myself through others. We all have our suppressed fears and ab- ab- we all have our suppressed fears, and knowing and sharing those of others is giving me the chance to recognize the mask of myself and of others. I'm really attempting to seek out the good and positive in others. I'm getting to realize that my disease has so many disguises that it takes others to help point them out. I'm growing tremendously even by taking the time out to do this. And I'm glad I am. For somewhere down the line, I want to be able to replay the tapes of my initial recovery. I'm truly grateful to my higher power, and I'm beginning to see that slowly but surely my prayers are being answered. I feel excited about my newly found faith in my higher power, the fellowship, and people in general. Okay? So, that was my journal entry for May the 8th of 1990. And you can see how just by sharing what I was going through, and at that time I had a decision to make to get an apartment or to seek additional structure at the WCA, and after soliciting feedback and whatnot, the best move for me was to have a little more structure after leaving the transitional house with 12 women. And so I thank God that I can reflect back to those days when I was indecisive, but was able to take the suggestions and solicit the suggestions of other people to make the right decision. And of course, I got teary eyed when it said, that line. Oh my God, it's going to make me cry again, because I said initially that my journal is my reference point. It says, for somewhere down the line, I want to be able to replay the tapes of my initial recovery. What better tapes to have than an actual journal? Okay. So you see why it's important to keep a journal? All right. So I did that. Now, what I want to do is share a little bit more about my world tour on recovery and how it is available for everyone through the 12 spiritual principles that happened in February of 2020. And this was my second in person presentation before COVID-19 shut us down in the physical, but God kept it going in the spiritual. All right. So let's go back to my little tape and let's hear a few more things that I had to say. All right.
God that guide me, that were giving what God thought they needed to have me learn from them to do. And for whatever reason, they eventually had to let go and let God. but he prepared me through these recovery principles to prepare for things yet to come. That's what the recovery principles do. Prepare you for things yet to come. Every morning we are dealt a hand of cards, and we do not know what's under that hand. And if y'all poker players, or tunk, or pity pack, or whatever y'all call them, what is it? Bid whist. What do the other people use? Bridge. Yeah, I can't figure about those people. It's all human beings, right? And but we never know what hands we are dealt. Nobody.
Right.
And so the question becomes, we are so used to being creatures of habit that whatever we are dealt with, whether it's joyous, disappointing, hurtful, we always, in most cases, look for external gratification, external solutions, something to take over, something to calm me down, something to make me forget, something, you know what I mean? We're always looking externally. And so we always go back to what we were used to. And so we're going to show in the 12 recovery principles how those habits, which we thought were good and manageable, turned against us, to the point where we had to learn something different if we were willing. Okay? So being prepared for things yet to come can be applied to anyone's life. And what hand you're going to be dealt with, it depends on which principles, which spirits, which guidelines you're going to follow. The old or learning the new. Okay? Now, this is my book as it was written. Okay? And what word is spelled wrong?
Written.
And why do you think it's spelled wrong?
Based on the Webster Dictionary, it's spelled wrong, but I guess the I stands for something. I would say
Okay.
it's internal.
Okay. Good point. As it, and what's the key word? Was.
Past tense.
Was. As it was written. So I wrote this book almost 30 years ago. And it was my journal that I kept the first 4 years in recovery. Where so, because of the issues that I had yet to learn to deal with, and because of the external solutions I sought, right, allowed me to become sickened and seek recovery. And so when they recommended in these 12 recovery principles, they say start keeping a journal. Because guess what? When we go to the therapist, some of us lie. When we go to counseling, some of us lie. You don't know me. You just met me. How am I going to tell you about me? You don't, look. So I want to tell you what I think you want to hear so I can get up out of here. You know? So when do we become true to ourselves? So when they suggested I keep a journal, I kept a journal for 4 years off and on, talking about the world that I had left and how it was trying to call me back, and the triggers and the temptations and the setups and all of that stuff. And then I wrote about how can I live without it, about, you know, birthdays, funerals. I mean, how am I going to deal? They say, give us this day your daily bread. Never understood the concept until I worked the 12 recovery principles. So I kept a daily journal. And so with the infusion of all that stuff and not dealing with the issues inside, I forgot how to spell. I couldn't even spell the word how one time. I was like, I don't know where you spell how.
Sometimes those little,
I'm just saying.
those little words.
Yeah.
It happens,
Yeah.
yes.
I forgot how to read because the drugs and alcohol eat up the membranes and stuff, right? It's like my brain had to be retrained, right? And so they say in recovery, and back in our ancestors' days, or back in the days, how did they sign their names? So we don't care how you write it, just get it out of here and onto the paper. And so that's why it's called As It Was Written. And the journal has every run-in sentence, misspelled words, punctuations, run-on sentences, all that. Because that's the way it was written, that's where I was. But I was able to get that feeling out. I was able to express my thoughts, my behaviors, my attitudes as I was transitioning and in that world I left, but fearful of going forward, but how to take our daily bread. And when I say everything is in there,
Everything.
I just didn't know God was going to publish it years later. But that's okay. Because through the recovery principles, I was able to be transparent. And he was able to say, Edwina, the truth will set you free. The truth will empower other people. And so, as it was written, so from henceforth, this day, I suggest that y'all begin to keep a journal. Just from this classroom alone, workshop alone. She told me to keep a journal. Here it goes. That's good. Next day you might write 2 sentences, or 2 days later you might write a paragraph, and next week you might write. But again, because eventually it's going to become your reference book. Do you hear me? It's going to become your reference book. And so, as it was written, is my journey, 4-year journal entries from drugs, alcohol, mental illness, crime, prostitution, murder, homelessness. So you say murder? Yes. As a prostitute, I had an abortion, and I consider that murder.
Amen.
And it took me 10 years until I got in recovery and started applying these 12 recovery principles that I learned how to forgive myself, and that this God that I didn't know nothing about had already forgiven me.
Amen.
But I didn't know that. And so in my journal, I'm talking about all this stuff, because I don't know. And so homelessness, the whole 9 yards. Okay. There's a book in each and every one of us. Everybody has a story. If you can't write it, if you don't want to do a journal by writing, talking to your phone, talking to a tape recorder. Get the Dragon software and let it type as you speak it into the computer. Yes. So this is the last day I got high was on February the 22nd of 1990 underneath a parked car. Okay. You see the pictures before, during, and after. Whenever we're in the recovery process, whatever you're going through, whether it be cancer, domestic violence, you were somebody before all that stuff happened. Who were you? What was the makeup? What aspiration, what dreams, what goals did you have? Right? And then some way, somehow you got caught up. That's Doran. That's me in the middle. I was out there for 14 years. Yes. The whole 9 yards that go with trying to camouflage me getting high and making excuses and justifying and rationalizing that you're going to judge me, you're going to criticize me and all of that kind of stuff, that I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Whatever happens to me, I deserve it. That's how we feel. And then some of us with other issues, why me? Why did I get it? Why is he beating me? Why did he rape her? Why did he molest her? Why? What did I do? And that stuff begins to doing. And so we think we're dealing with it, but how are we dealing with it? The way we used to deal with things? And we're digging ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper. To the point where we'll come to the realization, and I often say through humiliation comes humility. I believe that.
Okay, we're going to stop there because y'all know I have to get to my meeting. And so that's good. I just wanted to plant a seed. Did you hear that last statement? Through humiliation comes humility. And that's what most of us mean. And that's what I believe the scripture means too. That everyone is every human being is going to have a knee-bowing experience. It's just designed that way. because most times we just think we the stuff, right? And we are invincible and we're this, and we're that, right? But because we are human, we are limited. But it takes a while to learn that, and it definitely takes experiences to come to that realization. All right, so now let's go to the topic of it works, and let me show you how it works, all right, from my perspective, and let's do it together, all right? So here we have, okay, it says here, okay, it works. It works. Have you remember those feelings when you put something together or you came to the realization that your efforts, your idea, help from other people, whatever project you were working on? And if we go back to our school years, we had chemistry and biology and stuff like that, right? And we had to do this and we had to do that. We had to read the instructions. We had to do this. And then all of a sudden, bam, it works. Remember that feeling like, oh my God, it works. Wow. But why? How did it work? So that means you have to go back and revisit the steps that it took for it to work. So just remember that feeling like, oh, it works. Okay. All right. So now here with Alcoholics Anonymous, it says it works. It really does. And this is from Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book, page 88. And guess what? It said it works. But then some of us, it was like, oh, it really does work. Like we needed a second convincing. Not just the first one. It works. No, it really does work. Wow. There's a little difference from the realization that it works and the actual belief that it really does. Oh my God. See, that's why I love dissecting these words. Let's go on. So go to page 88 of the big book and read the chapter or where that quote came from. So this is the alcoholic's perspective. He says, when I got sober, I initially had faith only in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. When I got sober, I initially had faith in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. When I initially got sober, I had faith in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so many of you may say, wow, but guess what? When people who have the disease of addiction, alcoholism, and whatever adversities that we as human beings go through, right? We don't always get it, right? And so we have to be brought and come to the realization that I understand just a little bit, or I think I understand, or I don't want to understand about this God thing. But what can I put faith in right now? Because when we look at faith, faith is not new to us. We have faith that we will wake up the next morning. We have faith that our parents will cook us food. We have faith that we'll be educated. So we have faith and we have practiced it, right? And so now what this person is saying, when he initially got sober, he put his faith in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, okay? And so the second step that we went through last month came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And that only means soundness of mind, okay? All right, so let's go on. He says, desperation and fear kept me sober. Wow. Desperation and fear kept me sober. Desperation and fear kept me sober. I can relate to that. Underneath that parked car, 32 years ago. The God that I didn't know, didn't understand, met me underneath that parked car. Took the obsession and the compulsion immediately from me. Prepared me to be sitting here before you. And so my thought was, because I demanded that he take me out this life or show me a better way, it was out of desperation and fear that I did not want to go back underneath that parked car. So I knew what was behind me and what was waiting for me. Oh, hell to the no. So out of desperation and fear, I did not want to go back. And I didn't. And it also says here, right? And maybe a caring and or tough sponsor helped, right? The fact that I have this journal, right, was the suggestion of a temporary sponsor that I got in early recovery. Mary Truitt, I'll say her name, was my temporary sponsor because I knew her, right? And I only picked her because I knew her, right? But listen, that's not a good thing because sometimes in actuality, they co-sign our shit, right? So, but anyway, it was my second sponsor, right? Annette, oh my God. Annette, oh, what's her name? Annette, I'm gonna call her Annette. She's the one who recommended that I start keeping a journal, right? And so with the help of my sponsor and the experience of my sponsor of my choice, who I wanted to co-sign my stuff, right? Opposed to getting a tough sponsor, one who kind of just told me what I needed to hear and not what I wanted to hear, right? So, and yes, they did and do care, right? So it goes on here to say, faith in a higher power came much later. And see, this is why I'm doing my dissertation on how the 12 spiritual principles help you to identify your higher power. When I'm in my biblical study classes and I was, talking with people and from this particular religion, this and that, and they was like, no, higher power. No, you need to name it. No, not an Alcoholics Anonymous. You cannot give us a God. You cannot give us your God. We have to find a God of our understanding. And for right now, we are using the word higher power because we don't know. We don't know. But I put our faith in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. So Alcoholics Anonymous came our higher power. Yes. Right? And so it says here that, wait a minute. It says here that faith in a higher power came much later. This faith came slowly at first after I began to listen to others share at meetings about their experiences that I had never faced sober, but that they were facing with strength from a higher power, right? They didn't mention God. They didn't mention Allah. They didn't mention none of that. They just mentioned higher power. And so as people like us in recovery, we have to start real small, right? Because our minds, our ego, and our pride, right, do not want to, number one, admit complete defeat. We did not want to admit that our lives had become unmanageable, but contrary to the tangible evidence, voila. So if it says no human power could have relieved that alcoholism, probably no human power could have relieved that alcoholism. God could and would if he was so, right? So we learned that this God thing, whatever, but let me choose right now who I want to practice having faith in because I don't want to go back. So my higher power became the rehab. My higher power became the staff in the rehab. my higher power came the group of people that were in the rehab. They were a power greater than me that can help restore me to soundness of mind. And so the form of a higher power took steps to get to where I am now, right? Where I choose and I know it's the God of my understanding, right? But it takes time and it takes hearing the experiences of others that helps us to become more open-minded, right? To a powers greater than us. And eventually we will, through the 12 spiritual principles, identify who our higher power is. But it's your mind decision, okay? So then it goes on to say here, right? Out of their sharing came hope that I too would and could get a higher power, right? And so I told y'all, when I hollered out to this God, I was taught that God was a punishing God. And, and I couldn't understand what was going on in the world, but I had this yearning for some type of clarity, understanding, like whoever, what, help me to understand why my dad beats my mom, why my mom stays after he beats her, what's going on, right? And even during my addiction, why am I going through this, right? God said you're a bad girl. And so everything that happened to me in my addiction, I felt I deserved, particularly when I had that abortion as a prostitute. I said I deserve any and everything that I get because I took life. Not knowing about no higher power or no God and all that kind of stuff. No. He don't love me. He could not love me. It's impossible for him to forgive me. No. Because I couldn't even forgive myself, right? And so that's what it means here when it says, right? One, out of their sharing came hope, and I too would and could get a higher power. In time, I learned that a higher power, a faith that works under all conditions, is possible. So, by me going to AA meetings, I see people staying sober. By me going to AA meetings, I see people drunk, but they still coming to the AA meeting. By going to AA meetings, I hear people go through horrific things and beautiful things, but they staying sober. By going to meeting and hearing people share what they had to do and what they're doing now and the struggles, but they are not drinking. And they are helping an alcoholic like me achieve sobriety by the fact that they are sharing their experience, strength, and hope. Now, I tell you, I got to tell you that another day, because when I shared, I didn't know about no sharing the general way. I had people falling out their seats and everything. But anyway, I didn't know no better at the time, right? And so let me stop. I got a few more minutes. It says here, a faith that works under all conditions is possible. So today, this faith plus the honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to work the steps of the program gives me the serenity that I seek. It works. It really does. And so the how, right? And that's chapter 5, how, right? Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. So I have to be honest with myself. And that's what happened when I allowed this group of my health staff to be my higher power to help me identify what my pattern was. And when I heard myself tell myself the truth, right? And they asked me, based on what you said, do you believe you an alcoholic and your life is unmanageable? I said, oh, hell yeah. And then they said, well, there's one way that we can help you if you let us, right? And that's where the open-mindedness came in. And right, so I was open to hear what they had to say because I needed to get the help. And the question that came after that, are you willing? Are you willing? I'm just as willing today as I was 32 years ago. All right. And so it says here at the end, and I will close with this. It says here, it works. It really does. So today, this faith plus the honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to work the steps of the program gives me the serenity that I seek. I'm telling y'all, I am at a level of peace and serenity and tranquility that it is beyond comprehension. Why? Because of what Donald Lawrence said. You are not a natural being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being encased in walking this natural experience. Oh my God. Woo! In my journal, I referred to a higher power than God. And then Jesus Christ. It was a process. And so this program, the 12 spiritual principles, the spiritual fellowship, it has worked like nothing else has worked for those who have the disease of alcoholism addiction. But guess what? It can work for all human beings. Yes. And so it's time for me to go to my meeting, so I got to cut it short. So what I want to tell you to do, right, is to make sure that you wear your mask, social distancing, right? Get vaccinated, get your children vaccinated, get the booster shot, social distancing and all that kind of stuff, because it works. It works. It saves lives. It decreases the severity of symptoms. It works. It really does. 9 members of my family had COVID-19. Only 2 of us had symptoms, my 3-year-old and myself. But guess what? It works. So do your part, because it really does work. If nobody told you they love you today, I love you. You love me. We are one big family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? Have a blessed day. And if it's God's will that we are reunited again tomorrow, I'll be here. Will you? All righty. Be safe. Be happy. Because this is the day the Lord has made, and it will never come by again.